The ocean is home to some incredible creatures, but sometimes these sea animals don't hold back when it comes to attacking boats. From massive humpback whales breaching near vessels to great white sharks circling with force, the sea can get pretty intense. In this video, we'll take a look at 15 sea creatures attacking boats. Number 15. German U-boat attack. During World War I, a strange and eerie story emerged about a German submarine being attacked by a sea monster in the Irish Sea in 1918. This tale became popular after 2 German U-boats were sunk by British patrol ships. According to the story, the crew of one particular U-boat, a UB-3 class submarine, reported that a giant mutated creature attacked them. They all described it as looking like a massive mutated crocodile. The creature caused so much damage that the submarine had to surface, where British forces quickly took it out. For years, this bizarre story circulated, sparking the imaginations of many. But despite the crew's claims, no one has been able to provide a logical explanation for what could have possibly damaged a German submarine during wartime. Some people even doubt the story entirely, with marine archaeologist Dennis McCartney suggesting that the tale might not be true at all. He believes the story became popular in the 1930s when tales of sea monsters were making the rounds globally. To make the story even more puzzling, the submarine was discovered off the coast of Scotland just a couple of years ago. Using sonar scans and composite images, researchers found no evidence of claw or teeth marks that would suggest an attack by a sea monster. So while the story remains a fascinating mystery, it's likely that the real cause of the submarine's damage wasn't as supernatural as some might think. Number 14. Crushed by a whale. Imagine going on a kayak tour just hoping to catch a glimpse of some whales and then suddenly finding yourself in the middle of an encounter with a massive humpback whale. That's exactly what happened to a 35-year-old British tourist visiting Monterey Bay in the San Francisco area, a popular spot for whale watching and kayaking. This guy wasn't expecting much when he set out, but what he got was an experience of a lifetime, one that could have been deadly. A 33-ton or 33,000 kilograms humpback whale, bigger than 2 buses put together, leapt out of the water in front of his kayak. Before he knew it, the whale belly flopped right on top of him. The force from the whale was so strong that the kayaker was sucked underwater, tossed around like a rag doll, and then struggled to get back to the surface. Incredibly, he didn't get seriously hurt. He later described the massive whale as so huge that it completely blocked out the sun when it leapt out of the water. He could even see water dripping off the whale's body right before everything went dark. And here's the kicker. After the whole ordeal, the kayaker said the whale smelled absolutely awful, giving a whole new meaning to the phrase, fish breath. This close call was a reminder of just how powerful and unpredictable nature can be, especially when you're in the middle of it on something as small as a kayak. Number 13. Bull shark attacks boat twice. Drones are incredible devices, right? They've opened up a world of possibilities, and one of the latest uses is to help fishermen track fish. It's a game changer, and in Florida, it led to an encounter no one could have predicted. The story begins with a fisherman using his drone to spot blacktip sharks from the beach. However, what the drone found wasn't a blacktip, it was a huge bull shark. But that wasn't the end of it. The drone also spotted a group of cobia swimming nearby, and the fisherman, excited by the opportunity, quickly called his friend Carl, who was out on a 30-foot fishing boat, to join him in catching the fish. When Carl arrived, he had no idea what he was about to face. As soon as the boat approached the shark's territory, the bull shark reacted violently. The shark went into a frenzy, charging the boat with an unexpected intensity. It wasn't just attacking the hull, it aimed straight for the outboard motors. Your motor basically just going nuts for it and biting at that left motor, the fisherman described. The shark slammed into the boat with terrifying force, hitting it at least 7 times. Each strike seemed to grow more aggressive. The fisherman, filming the entire encounter, said he had never witnessed such aggressive shark behavior before. After returning to shore and inspecting the boat, they discovered the damage. The shark had actually broken and bitten off one of the plastic covers of the motors. This was no ordinary shark. It was an enraged and powerful bull shark defending its space. Number 12. Got the hump. Kayakers, watch out. Whales might be coming for you. In 2015, something incredible happened in Monterey Bay, California, when 2 tourists got way more than they bargained for while whale watching on kayaks. Charlotte Kinloch and wildlife film director Tom Mustel were out on the water hoping to see some humpback whales up close. But one whale got a little too curious and decided to get much closer than they expected. As the whale approached, it suddenly breached right next to them, causing their kayak to flip over. The pair were thrown into the water, and the massive whale landed near them, creating a huge splash. Onlookers gasped and shouted, "He knocked it over! He knocked it over!" It was a terrifying moment, but miraculously, Charlotte and Tom survived and were brought back to shore, shaken but safe. The instructor, probably trying to lighten the mood, gave them some hot chocolate and a free hat. though I'm sure that didn't quite erase the shock of what they just experienced. Humpback whales can weigh up to 40 tons and grow over 60 feet long, which is taller than the Hollywood sign. Tom later described the moment the whale came down as something bigger than a bus blocking out the sun. "I thought I was going to die," he said. Whales usually breach for a few different reasons: getting rid of parasites, communicating, fighting, or just showing off. Humpbacks are typically peaceful, so an act like this was very unusual. Tom even asked whale expert Professor Joy Riedenberg about what happened. She explained that whales typically breach in two ways: chin slaps, landing on their neck, and full breaches, landing on their back. The whale that struck Tom and Charlotte performed a full breach but ended up rotating midair and landing on its softer throat, not its skull. Professor Joy suggested the whale might have been surprised by the kayakers, explaining that the pair survived because the whale likely tried to avoid hitting them. So it seems humpbacks are nice after all. For Tom, the encounter didn't turn him off humpback whales. In fact, it only deepened his fascination with these massive, intelligent animals. We search so hard for aliens outside this planet, yet we know so little about the giant minds of creatures like humpbacks, he said. Number 11. Killer whale attack. Victor Littlefield was having a quiet afternoon with his teenage son and two of his son's friends on his 33-foot or 10-meter aluminum boat. It was just another lazy Sunday, or so he thought. Out of nowhere, the boat lurched violently, and at first, Victor thought they were under attack by a great white shark, probably because he just watched Jaws the day before. But to his shock, it wasn't a shark, it was a killer whale. The orca smashed into the boat several times, each hit more intense than the last. Then, in a bizarre turn of events, the whale grabbed hold of the boat's anchor and yanked it around, tossing Victor's boat like it was a toy in a bathtub. To make things even more terrifying, the orca swam at the boat and slapped it with its tail. The situation seemed like a serious attack, and with 3 teens on board, it was even more frightening. But after a few intense minutes, the whale finally swam away, dragging the ship's anchor line with it, somehow ripping it off during the attack. Fortunately, no one was hurt. To this day, Victor has no idea why the orca attacked his boat. It's one of those mysteries of nature that remains unanswered, but it was definitely an encounter that none of them will ever forget. Number 10. Sea monster and yacht. A chilling image recently surfaced on Facebook, leaving viewers stunned and sparking heated debates. The photo shows a serene yacht gliding peacefully over the ocean, its passengers seemingly unaware of the massive sea creature rising from the depths below. The creature, with its long, serpentine body and tentacle-like appendages, appears to dwarf the yacht, casting an ominous shadow over the water. Nearby, a smaller boat watches in shock as the yacht tilts precariously, as if on the verge of being swallowed whole. The image quickly went viral, with thousands of people sharing and commenting on the terrifying scene. Some claimed it was undeniable proof of a previously undiscovered sea monster, while others dismissed it as an elaborate hoax or an AI-generated creation. The debate only intensified when the man who originally posted the image mysteriously deleted it without explanation, leaving everyone wondering about its authenticity. Marine biologists and digital experts have weighed in, with no consensus reached. Was this a genuine encounter with a deep-sea leviathan, or just another example of advanced digital manipulation? The sudden disappearance of the image has only deepened the mystery, leaving the world to wonder, what secrets does the ocean still hide? Share your thoughts. Could this be real? Number 9. Otter escape. In a surprising turn of events, an otter in Alaska's Halibut Cove Lagoon narrowly escaped death thanks to a clever move and a bit of luck. John Dornelis was watching the scene unfold, helpless as an orca played with the otter, clearly teasing it before eventually planning to tear it apart. But the otter wasn't about to go down without a fight. At the last second, the wily otter made a quick escape. "Come on up, bud." It scrambled out of the water and onto John's boat, leaving the orca splashing around in frustration, clearly annoyed that its dinner had slipped away. The orca circled the boat several times, its massive dorsal fin cutting through the water like a knife, as if it was trying to figure out how to get to the otter. John could feel the tension in the air as the orca occasionally bumped the side of the boat, testing its resolve. The otter, drenched and visibly shaken, clung to the edge of the boat, its wide eyes darting between John and the water below. For a moment, John wondered if the orca might try to breach the surface and tip the boat over, but it eventually seemed to lose interest. The otter, however, wasn't taking any chances and stayed firmly planted on the deck, its tiny paws gripping the surface tightly. John couldn't help but marvel at the otter's quick thinking and determination to survive, even in the face of such a formidable predator. He later joked that the otter had hitchhiked its way to safety, but deep down, he was relieved to have been in the right place at the right time. The encounter left him with a newfound respect for the intelligence and resilience of these creatures. John watched as the whale threw a tantrum in the water, but the otter was safely tucked on his boat, seemingly grateful for the break. John decided to let the otter hang out on his boat until the coast was clear. The little critter didn't say thank you as it left, but John was pretty sure it was thankful to still be alive. It was a wild moment, proving that sometimes, even in the face of danger, a bit of clever thinking can make all the difference. Number 8. The Alexander sunk by a sea monster. The Alexander, a whaling ship from Massachusetts, met its tragic end at the hands of one of the ocean's most formidable creatures, a sperm whale. On August 20, 1851, Captain John de Blois and his crew were more than 3,000 miles, or about 4,800 kilometers off the coast of South America when they spotted a massive whale. The size was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The crew quickly dropped 2 whaleboats into the water, one led by Captain de Blois, the other by the first mate. The first mate managed to harpoon the whale, but instead of fleeing, the creature turned and launched an all-out attack with terrifying force. The whale opened its massive jaws and destroyed the first whaleboat in a single savage bite. The crew was forced to scramble. The captain rushed to rescue his men, and 12 of them found themselves crammed into one boat, far from the Alexander and dangerously exposed. They managed to evade further attacks, finally making it back to their ship. But this was no time for retreat. They had already harpooned the whale, and now it was personal. The whaler's second harpoon struck the whale in its head, but this only made the creature angrier. In a violent rage, the whale charged the ship, ramming its massive body into the hull below the waterline. Within moments, water began flooding into the ship, and the Alexander was doomed. The crew of 22 men was forced to abandon ship, helplessly watching as their vessel sank into the depths of the ocean while the victorious whale swam away, seemingly unscathed. It was a brutal reminder of the immense power of nature and the deadly force that lurks beneath the waves. Number 7. Great White Shark Attack, a battle with a sea monster. Keith Poe's fishing trip off the coast of Los Angeles quickly turned into a fight for survival when his boat was struck by a great white shark. At first, he assumed the impact was from a sailboat colliding with him, but the force of the strike told him otherwise. This was no ordinary encounter. According to Men's Journal, the shark didn't stop at just one attack. It came back for more. Over the course of only 3 days, Keith's boat was struck 7 times. The attacks seemed to happen with perfect timing, usually at sunrise or sunset when the waters were still. The sharks appeared to be in a heightened state of aggression, circling the boat and occasionally ramming it with their powerful bodies. Keith described the sound of the impacts as bone-chilling, with each strike shaking the entire vessel. At one point, a shark even bit into the boat's hull, leaving deep gouges that would later need extensive repairs. The crew tried using loud noises and bright lights to deter the sharks, but the predators seemed undeterred, their focus locked on the boat. Keith speculated that the sharks, frustrated by their inability to access the whale carcass, were mistaking the boat for a rival or another potential food source. The sight of the massive 18-foot great white breaching near the boat was both awe-inspiring and terrifying, a reminder of the raw power of these apex predators. Despite the chaos, Keith and his crew managed to stay calm, relying on their experience and quick thinking to avoid further danger. The largest of these sharks was an enormous 18-foot or over 5-meter monster, a true apex predator. The reason for such aggression: a massive humpback whale, affectionately known as Wally, had washed up on shore. The carcass of the whale acted as a beacon, drawing sharks to the area in search of an easy meal. Authorities tried to remove the carcass, towing it away 3 times, but the dead whale kept drifting back to shore, keeping the sharks in a frenzy. Unable to feast on their prize, the sharks took out their frustration by attacking Keith's boat instead. Despite the repeated attacks, Keith was fortunate. He and his crew emerged unscathed. However, his boat wasn't so lucky, suffering damage from the powerful strikes of the frustrated sharks. It was an encounter that Keith would never forget, a true testament to the power and rage of the great white shark. Number 6. Kayaker attacked. A close encounter with death. David Alexander, a school district superintendent from Santa Rosa, set out in his kayak at 6:30 in the morning at Shelter Cove, seeking peace and solitude. With the demands of his work weighing on him, he needed a break, and kayaking seemed like the perfect escape. Little did he know, this tranquil morning would soon become a fight for survival. As the sun began to dip, David was paddling back to shore, savoring the calmness of the water. Suddenly, a loud thud shattered the stillness. His kayak lifted off the surface, and at first, he thought he had accidentally bumped into a rock. But when he glanced down, a terrifying sight greeted him. Gray flesh, massive and ominous, moved beneath the boat. The shark, later identified as a great white, was estimated to be at least 15 feet long, a true giant of the ocean. David's heart raced as he clung to the kayak, trying to stay calm despite the chaos unfolding around him. He remembered reading that sudden movements could provoke sharks, so he tried to remain as still as possible, even as adrenaline coursed through his veins. The shark circled once, its dorsal fin cutting through the water like a blade, before lunging again, this time striking the side of the kayak. The impact nearly capsized him, but David managed to hold on, his mind racing with thoughts of his family and the sheer will to survive. The shark's teeth left deep gouges in the kayak, a chilling reminder of how close it had come to him. As quickly as the attack began, the shark seemed to lose interest, perhaps confused by the unfamiliar taste of plastic and fiberglass. Before he could react, the water exploded as a giant shark surged from beneath, sinking its teeth into the front of his kayak. The force of the attack was brutal, tearing the nose of the kayak to shreds and throwing David into the cold, unforgiving water. Now he found himself face to face with the apex predator, just a few feet away from a deadly bite. Miraculously, the shark let go of the kayak, turned, and disappeared back into the depths, leaving David in shock and disbelief. By some miracle, David made it back to shore unharmed. However, his kayak was no longer seaworthy, and he was likely in need of a fresh pair of underpants. What would you do if you were thrown into shark-infested waters? Number 5. Death by swordfish. A deadly encounter occurred on August 19, 1886. Captain Franklin D. Langsford from Massachusetts set out on a quiet afternoon in his small dory, leaving the larger schooner behind. About 8 miles or 13 kilometers off the coast near Ipswich Bay, he spotted a formidable prey, a swordfish, its sharp bill slicing through the water. Determined to catch this mighty fish, Franklin quickly gave chase. With precision, he struck the swordfish with his harpoon, securing the line to a buoy. Confident in his victory, he left the buoy and headed back to the main vessel for a well-earned dinner. Swordfish were highly prized at the time, not only for their meat, but also for the challenge they presented to fishermen, making Franklin's pursuit both a matter of pride and profit. The captain had faced dangerous catches before, but nothing could have prepared him for what was about to unfold. As he returned to the buoy, the calm waters gave no indication of the chaos that was about to erupt. The swordfish, still alive and full of fight, had been dragging the buoy in erratic patterns, a clear sign of its strength and determination to escape. Franklin's crew, watching from the schooner, later recounted how they had seen the buoy jerk violently just moments before the attack. It was as if the fish had been waiting for the perfect moment to strike back. After about an hour, Franklin returned to retrieve his catch. He grabbed hold of the buoy and began to pull himself along the line, his heart pounding in anticipation. As he neared the fish, he prepared to lance it and end the hunt. But fate had other plans. Without warning, the swordfish turned with incredible speed, charging straight under Franklin's boat. In a flash, it drove its razor-sharp bill straight up into the bottom of the dory, piercing the captain in the process. The swordfish's massive snout became wedged in the wood of the boat, trapping both Franklin and his small vessel in a deadly embrace. His crew eventually found him and rushed to rescue him, hoisting the dory and the 300-pound or 130-kilogram swordfish aboard the schooner. Despite their best efforts to save him, Franklin tragically succumbed to his injuries just 3 days later. Number 4. Hammer time. Have you ever had that eerie feeling that you're being watched or worse, stalked? In 2013, off the coast of Pompano Beach, Florida, a group of friends kayaking out in the sea had just that feeling, and it was far more real than they expected. As they paddled through the water, they noticed something moving beneath them. Suddenly, one of the kayakers saw it clearly. It's a hammerhead dude. The shark had started stalking them, and it wasn't just swimming nearby. It was snapping at one of their paddles. The kayaker struggled to keep the shark at bay, using his oar to bat it away. The hammerhead circled the group several times, its dorsal fin cutting through the water like a knife, adding to the tension. One of the friends tried to stay calm and suggested they paddle toward the shore slowly, but the shark seemed determined to follow them. Experts later explained that hammerheads are naturally curious creatures and may have mistaken the paddles for prey. The shark's persistence was likely due to its hunting instincts, as hammerheads are known to chase down stingrays and other bottom-dwelling creatures. The group's bright-colored kayaks may have also caught the shark's attention, as sharks are drawn to high-contrast objects in the water. The kayakers later admitted that the encounter felt like something out of a horror movie, with the shark's shadow looming beneath them. This wasn't just any shark, though. It was a great hammerhead, one of the largest species of hammerhead sharks, which can grow up to 13 feet long, about twice the size of a king-size bed. Hammerheads are known for their distinctive T-shaped heads, but it's not just for looks. Their unique heads house a network of highly sensitive organs called the ampullae of Lorenzini, which allow them to sense electrical fields produced by prey in the water. Maybe that kayaker just had an electrifying personality because that shark certainly seemed to be drawn to him. Despite the close call, he managed to fend off the hammerhead, but it's safe to say that encounter would leave anyone with a lingering feeling of being watched by something much bigger and scarier lurking in the deep. Number 3. Great white shark jumps into fisherman's boat. You know you're a pro fisherman when fish practically jump into your boat without you doing anything, right? Well, it doesn't always go as smoothly. Take this one Australian fisherman, for example. He got more than he bargained for when a giant great white shark decided to leap into his boat. Great white sharks are the largest predatory fish in the world. Some of them can grow up to 20 feet long and weigh over 5,000 pounds. These sharks have been around for millions of years, and they're built to be killing and eating machines. In fact, a great white can eat up to 11 tons of food in a single year. They're so good at sensing prey that even if you're just floating in the water, they can detect you and attack. But in this case, the fisherman, Terry Selwood, wasn't even in the water with the shark. He was out fishing on his 15-foot boat, just minding his business. Then, out of nowhere, a 9-foot great white shark jumped right onto his boat, knocking him off his feet. The shark's powerful leap left Terry with a bruised and bleeding arm, and he thought his arm might be broken. He also had some bad cuts from the shark's collision with him. Terry quickly realized he needed to get out of the way. The shark was thrashing around, so he ran to the bow of the boat to avoid it. He grabbed hold of the metal frame of the boat's sun shelter and used his radio to call the Coast Guard for help. The Coast Guard didn't quite understand the seriousness of the situation at first, but once they arrived, they rescued Terry and left the shark alone. They estimated the shark to be about 440 pounds, which is huge. The Coast Guard towed Terry's boat, with the shark still on board, into Evans Head Bay just before nightfall. Terry had to replace some damaged gear like coolers and buckets, but the most important thing was that he survived the encounter. He may have had a close call with the great white, but at least he didn't end up as the shark's dinner. Number 2. Sunk by giant jellyfish. The Nomura's jellyfish is one of the scariest creatures lurking in the deep ocean. It's not a shark or squid, but it can be just as dangerous, even to an entire ship full of fishermen. There's a real story out of Japan where an enormous group of these jellyfish sank a fishing trawler. According to Fox News, this strange event happened just off the coast of Japan when a fishing boat tried to pull in a net filled with Nomura's jellyfish. No one knows exactly why, but for some reason, an army of these massive jellyfish gathered between Japan and the Korean peninsula. Fishermen started accidentally pulling in nets full of them. This was a huge problem because these jellyfish are gigantic. They can grow over 6 feet or 1.8 meters wide and weigh up to 400 pounds or 180 kilograms. That's a lot of jellyfish. Scientists believe that warming ocean temperatures and changes in salinity may have contributed to the sudden explosion in their population. Overfishing of their natural predators, such as sea turtles and certain fish species, could also be a factor, allowing the jellyfish to thrive unchecked. The jellyfish invasion caused chaos not only for fishermen but also for local ecosystems, as their sheer numbers disrupted the balance of marine life. Some researchers have suggested that the jellyfish may have been drawn to the area by an abundance of plankton, their primary food source, which had bloomed due to changing ocean conditions. The phenomenon has sparked concern among marine biologists, who warn that similar jellyfish blooms could become more frequent as climate change continues to alter ocean environments. The weight of the jellyfish was so heavy that when the crew tried to haul in the net, the boat couldn't handle it. The immense pressure tipped the boat over, and it sank. Thankfully, another trawler was nearby and rescued the 3 fishermen before anything worse happened. The invasion of Nomura's jellyfish was so bad that some salmon boats stopped going out into the ocean. Many fishermen lost up to 80% of their income because they couldn't fish. The problem didn't stop there. Nuclear power plants in the area kept getting jellyfish sucked into their pumps, causing technical issues. The reason these jellyfish decided to invade the area is still a mystery, but one thing is certain: the Nomura jellyfish is not something you want to mess with. It might not look scary at first, but it can cause serious trouble when there are too many of them. Number 1. Giant squid attack. A battle beneath the waves. In the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, a French yacht competing in an around-the-world sailing race found itself face-to-face with a creature from the depths, a giant squid. Veteran yachtsman Olivier de Kersauzon, at the helm, first felt strange vibrations shaking the boat. These were no ordinary waves. Concerned, he ordered one of his crew members below deck to investigate, hoping it was just a malfunction. But what they discovered was far from expected. Tentacles, thick and powerful, were wrapped around the yacht, squirming and pulling with alarming force, as if the creature was trying to drag the entire vessel under the water. The crew scrambled to the deck, shouting in disbelief as they tried to figure out how to free the boat from the squid's grip. One crew member attempted to prod the tentacles with a long pole, but the squid only tightened its hold, causing the yacht to lurch violently. The sound of the tentacles scraping against the hull was deafening, a reminder of the sheer strength of the creature. Some of the crew speculated that the squid might have mistaken the yacht for a rival or a potential mate, given its unusual behavior. Others believed it was simply curious, drawn to the vibrations of the boat cutting through the water. Thinking on his feet, Olivier stopped the boat completely. This move paid off momentarily. The squid released its grip, but the crew's relief was short-lived. As they looked back at the water, they saw the squid hovering beneath the surface, an enormous shadow with eyes that seemed to watch them. The giant squid was a living nightmare, its body estimated to be at least 30 feet or 9 meters long, an imposing force capable of sinking the yacht if it wished. Olivier, who had been sailing for 4 decades, was shaken. He said he had never seen anything as terrifying in all his years on the water. Luckily, the crew escaped unharmed, but the chilling encounter left an indelible mark on their memories. Which of these attacks did you find the most surprising? Is there anything else you think should have been on the list? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to check out our other cool videos showing up on the screen right now. See you next time.